Yo, what's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and guys, today we're taking a look at the latest on the Buffalo Sabres situation with Jack Eichel. Now, Jack Eichel, it sounds like things are coming to a close, hopefully in the very near future, based off of a couple of reports we heard this past weekend on the Jack Eichel front. So we're going to be going over some of that stuff in today's video. So we've got some information, and this is from Kevin Weeks, who has been with TNT and NHL Network. The Flames and Golden Knights are among the potential final destinations for Jack Eichel. I think this is not really much of a surprise. We've heard these talks over the last little while now. Now, the Calgary Flames are maybe interesting because you would think, well, because they're having success, maybe they decide they do want to go down this road. You could have made the same argument if they weren't a great team, because then they could throw in some different assets. Now, that's the only problem here for the Flames now, because if you're going to pull off this trade, that means you're going to have to give up multiple first-round draft picks, probably Connor Zary, potentially a Rasmus Anderson. Again, ideally, it would have been a guy like Johnny Gaudreau, but do you want to trade Johnny Gaudreau now with the amount of success he's had? So that's the kind of stuff. If we see a trade with the Flames, it may be a little bit more complicated now that the team is doing as well as they are. They're not going to want to take roster players in order to make that trade work. And that's kind of what we're seeing from Vegas as well, especially Vegas with all the injuries they have right now. They can't afford to lose prospects, guys that are in the lineup right now for cheap contracts. They can't afford to lose those guys in a deal for Eichel. And that's what we're going to get into as well here. The Golden Knights, according to Elliot Friedman, obviously a big insider, the Golden Knights would allow Jack Eichel to pursue the disc replacement procedure that he is seeking for. That's from Elliot Friedman. And then Ed Graney continues on a follow-up here. The Sabres are asking for multiple draft picks, a top prospect, a forward, a defenseman for Eichel. It's not and or. It's not like you get a forward or a defenseman. No. It's a forward, a defenseman, a top prospect, and multiple draft picks. Now, again, you don't know the range of those draft picks. Are those first-round picks, multiple first-round picks, multiple second-round picks, multiple third-round picks? Probably not multiple seventh-round picks. We could assume that. But, what is the actual price? It still seems a little bit grainy in terms of, Buffalo obviously has an idea of what they want. But at the end of the day, the market is set at a certain point. So, you can only leverage so much. And I think that's what the Buffalo Sabres and the organization are realizing. And it's almost to the point now where, where is Eichel's value? Because the team is having success without him in the lineup. So you could look at it one of two ways. Either, all right, maybe we don't get this huge return for Eichel because we're already doing well without him. So maybe he isn't as valuable as we, thought he really was perspective-wise. Or it's, well, we know what he's worth and we're doing well without him, so there's no real rush to get this deal done. It could be either of those sides right now for the Buffalo Sabres management. This is also from Dan Kingerski. Don't sleep on the Calgary Flames or the Colorado Avalanche in the Jack Eichel sweepstakes. Now, the Colorado Avalanche would be interesting because we've seen that they have not gotten off to the start to the season that they probably would have hoped. With that said, though, this is a team that's going to ask for retention or a retainment on the salary, which Buffalo is not willing to do. I find it very hard to believe that the Colorado Avalanche are a legitimate contender in this situation because they just don't have the cap space with all the players they have. They have to re-sign Nathan McKinnon. They just gave Landeskog a contract, have Rantanen locked up, Makar locked up. Like, you only have so many contracts you could throw around. Not to mention, Darcy Kemper is probably going to get a deal done at some point this year to stay in Colorado. So Joe Sakic already has a lot of money tied up. He can't really afford another $10 million and giving up a ton of prospects in depth in order to get that player. It just doesn't make feasible sense for the Avalanche to do that. Now, this is from NHL Rumors Daily. They have a great website. Whatever team acquires Jack Eichel will need the freed cap space prior to putting him on the long-term injured reserve. So basically, you can't go with the assumption that he's going to go right on LTIR. You have to have the cap space, which is $10 million already freed up before bringing in Jack Eichel. So it's not like, oh, we can make that move later. No. You have to have the cap space prior to Jack Eichel joining your franchise, whether it's on LTIR or not. So that is something you almost have to treat him like he is a player that could come onto your team right now. Which is going to be tough for a lot of teams, especially the cup chasing teams that would be interested in Jack Eichel and would be interested in giving up the multiple draft picks and the multiple prospects and players that would need to be involved in such a deal. And then we also heard from Eric Stevens. This is more on the Anaheim Ducks side of things, who, the Ducks have been a very, a team that has been in high pursuit of Jack Eichel, and Stevens doesn't dismiss the possibility of Mason McTavish, who was the third overall pick by the Ducks here in the 2021 draft. Maxime Comtois led the team in points last season, or Troy Terry being moved in a deal for Jack Eichel. Troy Terry actually requested a trade this spring, and he's really done well to start the season here for the Ducks, but now the Ducks had a little bit of a losing streak. They beat the Habs, whoop-de-doo. But they were on a 5-game losing streak, so you could see them as a team that's looking at a situation with Jack Eichel where they're saying, you know what, maybe we do put ourselves in that conversation. Now, Eric Stevens also followed that up saying the Anaheim Ducks have made it absolutely clear that they will not trade Zegras for Jack Eichel, and that has been a fair point they have made. Obviously, Zegras did have that injury the other night with Cedric Paquette in that game against the Montreal Canadiens. So hopefully he will be okay. There's no long-term effects to that. But I completely agree with that. I like, Jack Eichel, but if I'm the Ducks, as a Ducks fan, I don't really want to be giving up Trevor Zegras at this point. I just don't think that makes sense. It's taking away too much for you to add, because what you're doing is you're having, Zegras at that point as a complementary piece to Jack Eichel. That's kind of what you're hoping for. You're building that 1-1-2 combo at center depth. Honestly, if I'm the Ducks, I'm going to be completely honest here. You have Mason McTavish in the lineup. You have Trevor Zegras in the lineup. Just leave those damn guys. Let them play. You don't need to trade up more guys to get Jack Eichel. I would not make that move if I'm Bob Murray. That's my opinion on that. As a Ducks fan, I don't make that trade, because give it another 2-3 years, Mason McTavish and Trevor Zegras could be just as good, if not better, than Jack Eichel, who is 100% healthy. Again, there's too much stuff here with the surgery and stuff like that. If I'm the Ducks, I am not making that move. It just doesn't make enough sense. Now, there's also something we have to add here as well, is looking at that salary cap situation. The Vegas Golden Knights do have some cap space here. You look at the amount of injuries that this team has endured here to start the season. It is almost unprecedented. I mean, I made a video a couple weeks ago talking about the Ducks and their injuries, but it has gotten, the Golden Knights, but it's gotten worse since then. This is a team that is beaten up. Going into the season, before opening night, the Vegas Golden Knights were without Alexander Tuch, who has been out. He's been dealing with shoulder surgery. We probably won't see him till the beginning of the new year. Max Pacioretty was out with a day-to-day injury. Zach Whitecloud, October 28th, and Connor Corcoran both placed on the injured reserve. Lower body injury for Whitecloud, an undisclosed injury for Corcoran. And now on the 29th, we have seen Mark Stone, the captain of the Golden Knights, and Matthias Janmark, the center, placed on the injured reserve. So in a span of 2 days, the Golden Knights have placed 4 players on the injured reserve. You have 2 defensemen and 2 forwards. This is a situation where if you're the Golden Knights, you have multiple guys out of your lineup, which means you're going to see more of the young guys. Like Peyton Krebs jump into the lineup. You can't really afford to have those guys just yeet out of here and be out of your lineup, because you need those guys in the lineup. They're, on entry-level contracts, which means they're cheaper to keep. And keeps you under the salary cap, so that makes sense in that regard. But also, you have to look at it in terms of, long-term effect. Do you want the guy that's already 28, 29 years old in Eichel, or do you want the guy that's a little bit younger, still cheaper? You can maybe get him on a bridge deal. It's still more economically attractive in the next 5-6 years over Jack Eichel, even with that. So unless Vegas wants to win the Stanley Cup right now, which, you could make a 90% argument that is what the Golden Knights have been doing since they've come into the league, that will eventually catch up with them. But maybe they're looking at it as, we want to win that Stanley Cup, we're going to do anything it takes, even if it means giving up guys like Peyton Krebs, Nick Hague, and multiple draft picks in the future. You're taking a lot of risk there, but, the management has made it quite clear, and the ownership, that they want a cup right now. So that may be enough. That may not be as much of a hindrance on them. They've also signed Ben Hutton in the meantime, just to get some guys under. Now, what I thought was interesting, too, the Golden Knights waived or claimed Mikey Amadio from waivers, which was a little bit of an interesting move and led some people to believe, is there more to the story here? Now, you also have to remember that Jack Eichel's situation is also interesting because he's still got 5 more years left at a $10 million contract. Now, you also have to remember here, coming this July in 2022, I know it's, believe it or not, guys, it is within 2 months from now, we are going to be talking about 2022 as reality, which is insane. But, with that aside, he has a no-move clause that kicks in next July, and that's going to make things even more complicated, even more difficult in terms of a possible trade. As if things haven't been difficult enough, it may get even more difficult if it takes that long. So with that said, guys, what do you think is going to happen here with Jack Eichel? Because we've gotten some more information here. There was some meetings going on. But at this point, there is a clear stagnant between these two sides. And I think Buffalo's made it quite clear, we are not moving Jack Eichel if we don't get the deal that we want. They did it with Rasmus Ristolainen, and they're kind of saying, we were able to get what we wanted for him by waiting it out. We're going to do the same thing here with the former captain, the formerly most valuable player on the roster. And whether you like it or not, that's the way they're running things. So let me know what you guys think. Are we going to see a trade for Jack Eichel to the Vegas Golden Knights in the very near future? Or does maybe another team pop up out of nowhere? We know that Bill Guerin in Minnesota has made it clear he would like to add another center. He hasn't made that trade for Tomas Hertl yet, so they're still in the conversation for that. What about the Anaheim Ducks? Are they willing to trade one of those early draft picks? One of those guys like Mason McTavish, Comtois, Terry, those were all former first-round draft picks. Could we see a deal get done there? If you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL and more videos just like this one, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and an even bigger subscribe down below. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time.